So beautiful. So back in March-ish or so, as I'm scheduling speakers, I sent out an email to 3 of the centers in the Phoenix area, and Rachel answered the call. Rachel Sartori is a practitioner at the New Vision Phoenix Center for Spiritual Living. She is a master teacher, transformational coach, and spiritual practitioner. She provides sacred, set-apart opportunities for people to awaken, cultivate, and integrate the truth of their goodness and wholeness, empowering them to live fully from the inside out. Rachel invites you to conscious evolution from survival to thrival, from living in limitation and fear to living in authentic freedom and joy. This is a practice of exercising your soul, of participating in the healing of your own heart and the world around you. Help me welcome Rachel Sartori.
Oh, good morning. It is such a joy to be here with you in person and those of you who are online. Welcome. This is my first time being here at Centers for Spiritual Living in Tucson, and even though we have never consciously met each other before this now moment, I trust our hearts know each other and that we have always been connected in that place where we are all one. Where we know, and we know that love really is the core truth of life itself, moving in, through, and as us all. It's especially delightful to get to speak into this monthly theme of loving out loud, because ultimately, loving out loud is about being willing to embody love as the core truth of life itself. Throughout this month, you've looked at this through the lens of loving the self, through love on a spectrum, and last week through loving your neighbor. All rich and very important ways that we are invited into being more expansively a demonstration of love out loud right where we are. Today, the unique doorway through which we are going to explore loving out loud is through the idea that no matter what the question is, love is always the answer, that love wins. Isn't that lovely? Whatever the question is, love is always the answer. Love wins. Without dipping in any farther, I feel this sense of just calm, relaxation, and joy when I hear that reminder that love is the answer. So I was sharing with somebody the other day the theme for this message, and she said, "Oh, that message would only take about 3 minutes to give." It seems really obvious, doesn't it? It seems obvious that love wins and that love is the answer. Many of us have been hearing messages like this for a long time, whether you've been part of Centers for Spiritual Living, or you've participated in a different organized religion, or you've dabbled in any level of self-development work. We know that there is this greater than us business going on, and generally it's love. So this isn't a brand new message. Spoiler alert. You actually know everything that you need to know right now. The thing is that as humans, we get kind of knotted up every now and again, and we forget what we know, or we fall into unconscious reactions around sticky stuff of life. And so the invitation today is to simply notice what is yours to remember today. And based on that, consider what is yours to do. What might be one next step that you can take towards loving out loud just a little bit more? And to reiterate, the moral of today's story is love wins. Love is always the answer. This profound and simple truth can seem so obvious in moments when things are going well. For example, I drove down here from Phoenix, and so did 4 of my friends, and we get to hang out today and go hear Gary Lynn Floyd sing later. I mean, if I was a cartoon character, you'd see like glitter rainbows like shooting out of my eyes, right? Like love. And what about the beautiful southwest mornings we are now receiving? Aren't they glorious? Bliss. And I heart Jason Mraz, I'm not gonna lie. He will be my third husband. I'm stating that now, I can't believe I just did that, but I'm putting it into the universal law, so I trust it's already being done. But that song, Love is Still the Answer, I could just bask in that message over and over and over and just let that joy wash over me. And as I say these things, do I appear to you as lovely? Thank you. Because I love looking at love. And just like Ernest Holmes, who is the founder of our movement, said in the passage that we heard earlier, this is the way of love. God is love. If we look at love long enough, we shall become lovely. If we gaze longingly at joy, it will make its home within us, and we shall enter its portals and be happy. All right. So if this is so, if love wins, if love is always the answer, if this is the way of love, then what about all the pain that still catches the heart after loss? And what about the fear that something might be wrong and should be different? Or the frustration that rises up when someone doesn't do the thing that they said they would do? Or so longing to be seen and heard as you are? Or fill in the blank with whatever point of pinch or angst comes up for you. If love always wins and love is always the answer, if this is the way of love, why isn't everything glitter rainbows and bliss? How do we love out loud when we feel pain and fear? I read another passage from Science of Mind textbook where Ernest Holmes talks about master teacher Jesus on the eve of the crucifixion. I mean, talk about a point of pinch and angst. And here is what Ernest said. Jesus was about to lay down his earthly life as the greatest object lesson ever taught. And what was this lesson? That love knows no bounds and that the eternal goodness gives itself to all. God as man, in man, is man. I mean, this was no simple pay it forward in the Starbucks line. Jesus was crucified as a testament to the vast love of God. So there are no glitter rainbows going on there, but I'm inclined towards the idea that love knows no bounds. And eternal goodness gives itself to all? Yeah. You know, this is actually one of the key principles of Science of Mind. We hold that it is the self-givingness of universal spirit through its desire to express itself in terms of creation. So Jesus' willingness to lay down his life as a demonstration of the infinitely expansive love of God is absolutely a striking practical example of the spiritual principle of love. And Jesus totally nailed loving out loud. And then later I was like, nailed it? Well, anyway, I can see an idealized way that love is always the answer. And that is precisely what we are being invited towards. Greater embodied demonstration of the infinitely expansive love of God in and through us, not just Jesus. Ernest ends this passage reminding of this. God as man, in man, is man. When I was reading this earlier this week, I knew I was generally able to get behind that. And my first thought was, can I hear that phrase regarding women? Because it feels like it's getting personal. God as woman, in woman, is woman. Yeah, I can get behind that too. So I explored other ways to play with the phrase, allowing it to come down from the golden rafters of how the brilliant master teacher Jesus did things into my life, including love in place of God. Notice how these land for you, even imagining the who that best matches your life. Love as my daughter, in my daughter, is my daughter. Love as the guy who bagged my groceries, in the guy who bagged my groceries, is the guy who bagged my groceries. Love as my clients, in my clients, is my clients. Love as you, in you, is you. Love as me, in me, is me. Yeah. I noticed I could get behind each of these statements pretty easily, even if tenderly. As I was playing with this phrase, it was interesting that my next thought was a little something more edgy. Love as my ex-husband, in my ex-husband, is my ex-husband. Whew. My hackles rose a little bit. A swell of heat washed through my body, and there was tightness in my chest. So I took a step back into a more comfortable idea. Love as all is all in all. Yeah, again, at my core, I know this to be true. I can get behind it. Compared to the hackles I had felt a moment before, this landed like Simone Biles Owens sticking a perfect landing. She's a gymnast. That was fun for me. But I kept feeling this tug. If it is true that God is, that love is the all that is, what is it like to stretch emotional and mental capacity to hold statements that do feel edgy and that aren't all rainbow glitter and bliss? Like love as loss, in loss, is loss. Love as fear, in fear, is fear. Love as frustration, in frustration, is frustration. Love as conflict, in conflict, is conflict. I don't know about you, but that's hard to wrap my brain and my heart around. This is what is true. When we are getting along, it is easy to see you as love. When we see little babies, it's easy to see the truth of love inherent in each person. When we witness kindness between people, it's easy to know the truth of love in them, as them, is them. When we experience things going the way we had hoped they would go, it is easy to love out loud. Even knowing that story of the crucifixion, it seems easy-ish to know that it was a demonstration of love. But when there are circumstances or situations that touch fear, insecurity, doubt, or pain, it feels tight and congested, and it's difficult to see anything lovely at all. And yet, if love is all there is, if love is the self-givingness of universal spirit through its desire to express itself in terms of creation, it simply is. So how do we reconcile the love that is with the pain and fear that we can feel? Ugh, this feels uncomfortable, people. When I first read Love Wins, I noticed that sense of reassurance and calm. And in this now moment, I feel a little unsure, definitely uncomfortable, and I feel swayed towards the general belief in dualism, that love is not all that there is. That instead there is some kind of struggle between good and bad, that there is opposition that love must fight against. My teenage daughter calls it ops, having ops. Opposition, resistance or dissent, energy against. This is actually a common experience, something we generally understand as existing in the world. And people have been collecting proof about it for a long time. And even when we try again and again to anchor into the eternal principle of love as all there is, sometimes it can really feel like there is opposition, like something or someone is really working against what you are trying to do in the world, or who you are, or what you are a stand for. It's like there's dense cloud cover and you forget that the sun is shining beyond. All you see is darkness. However it shows up, when we sense opposition, it feels uncomfortable, even painful, like the dissonance created by two clashing notes being played simultaneously and produce an unharmonious sound. When our psyche perceives such a threat, one of our impulses is to fight back for our survival, to get defensive, angry, push back, prove our side, place blame, make wrong, and thus try to resolve the situation and make it to somewhere comfortable and safe. So here's the thing. Whenever we notice our hackles rising up, whenever we catch on to the perception of a threat or dissonance, or that seeing love doesn't feel particularly easy, we are actually at a choice point. We can follow that defensive energy and go into survival mode. Or we can get curious about what there is for us to learn, heal, or discover about how the inherent wholeness of our soul may be invited to express more profoundly. The key is to catch that choice point, to cultivate our capacity within our own mindful awareness to notice, oh, my hackles are rising up. Oh, I do notice I feel threatened. Ooh, I notice it's more difficult to see love than at other times. It is here that we can ask ourselves, how is love expressing right now? And how else does love want to express? As we increase our ability to witness this choice point, we create an opportunity to see through the conditions of our humanity to the truth that there really is only love. Okay. Anybody in here familiar with The Matrix from circa 1999? All right. So I think of it as bullet time, and I'll explain this if you're not familiar with The Matrix. So bullet time happened in this Matrix movie where, and this is from filmschoolrejects.com, where they were reading about this, where Kung Fu meets techno-apocalypse. That's how they describe this movie. So in this movie, Keanu Reeves, there's a point where he dodges dozens of bullets by his mastery over time and space. And this is the way that we can reconcile what seems to be an opposition, what seems to be so, with what actually is slow. So, okay, slow because it's in slow motion. All right, so this is how it would look. So in the movie, there's like all these cameras that are set up, and they had to film it very carefully so that it would look like he was moving in slow motion, and these bullets are like grazing him, but he's able to get out of the way as they each are coming past him, and he's like, whoa, I can see everything happening. Okay, so this is what it might sound like in real life, not in the Matrix. Whoa, I feel the impulse to defend myself, to push back and make the other person wrong. Okay? It might sound like, I know if I act in those ways, it's not actually going to serve me. I'm at a choice point. Whew. It can also sound like this. I realize that even though I feel the impulse to react with anger, doubt, or fear, I can be curious about what there is for me to learn, heal, or expand. I now choose to see love as the only thing that is expressing. Love wants to express right now. So in the movie, when Keanu Reeves' character realizes he has this authority over the conditions that are presented to him, he actually stops the bullets. And there's a scene where all these bullets are coming at him, and he puts his hand out and they drop. And that's kind of like what happens for us in this place where it really seems like something is happening and there isn't love. And when we're able to slow down and allow ourselves to see through it, that condition loses its power. The bullets drop, the clouds part, and we see that the sun was there all along. So this is about embodiment, what happens in and through us. It's about giving definite form to the quality and principle of divine love, taking the notion of expansive nature of God as love from invisible to visible form. We in New Thought might also describe it as a demonstration or manifestation, and I would add not just in visible form, but through auditory form, through felt form, through our senses. And it is a drawing down, just like with our mind, it's a drawing down from the absolute qualities of spirit through soul, or the law that makes it so, out through the bodies of our own beings or the bodies of our affairs. We often anchor into the spiritual qualities of love, joy, abundance, freedom, peace, power, wholeness, unity, wisdom, beauty, balance, order. These qualities cannot help but be evident when we are rooted in divine love. They override the human survival tendencies towards doubt, fear, and insecurity. The bullet time happens when we realize our human survival condition has been activated and we choose to slow down reaction and reground ourselves in divine love and respond from there. It may feel like a wave of heat washing through your body and a bit of wobbliness in your legs as you realize you're on the trajectory to say or do something that you know won't actually serve the situation in a loving or kind way. It may look like pausing and taking a deep breath and placing your hand on your heart, consciously acknowledging how angsty you feel. It may sound like saying to someone else, wow, I just noticed something is really up for me, and if I stay in this conversation, I might say something that is out of alignment with my desire to show up in a loving way. I'm going to give myself a timeout, and I commit to circling back with you tomorrow. It may look like the hard edges of our face and our bodies softening as we drop the fighting energy and remember that God is the love that we are. It may sound like saying, this situation really sucks. I feel confused, and I'm not sure where to go next. I'm not sure how to do anything that will actually honor both of us. I know that there is only love, but I can't see the forest through the trees. I acknowledge that it's okay for me to pause, regroup, and see where things are at tomorrow. It may sound like I don't have an answer or know what to do right now, but I have a feeling there is something deeper going on inside of me. I'm willing to sit in my prayer chair and reflect on what there is for me to learn, heal, and expand. It may look like shaking your head in disbelief, throwing your hands up and saying, I really want to see how love is expressing right now, and I just don't get it. I should probably go have a snack. When we choose to get curious about what there is for us to learn, heal, or expand, when we choose to ask ourselves how love is expressing, when we choose to consciously acknowledge what is happening and take action from a place of groundedness, We are choosing to embody love. This is the ever-expanding spiral upward that is spiritual evolution. This is how we demonstrate love as the answer over and over again. Love is always the answer because love is all there is. There is no other answer that there could be. Sometimes we see it as glitter rainbows and bliss, and sometimes it seems to be hidden behind a dense cloud cover or perceived as bullets coming at us. When we love out loud, when we acknowledge all of it, the lovely, the joy, the pain, and the fear, we don't pretend that it isn't there, but we slow down our reaction, and we allow ourselves to reconnect to the deeper truth that is always present. Love is. And what seemed so obviously in opposition a moment before has the opportunity to dissolve into its native nothingness. In closing, I want to tell you a story that happened about 1.5 years after my first divorce. I had a young daughter who I had waited for years to conceive, receive. I loved being a mother every moment of every day. The reality of divorce meant that I only got to be embodied with her 50% of the time. My heart felt so broken with the loss of daily time with my daughter. When her dad started dating, it meant that when she was with him, she might also be with another woman. I was not eager to meet any of the women he dated. But when there was a one that stuck around, I realized I couldn't put it off forever. Needless to say, I felt in knots prior to meeting this woman for the first time. I felt the impulse to defend myself against her, to make her wrong, to make my daughter's dad wrong. I felt scowly in my face, tight in my chest. I was firm that I would not meet her until I was ready. A friend invited me to consider the possibility of expanding the love, of choosing to love out loud. She invited me to consider that love was actually the answer to this tight and confusing situation. Surely more people to love on my daughter would be a good thing, right? But how? How can I expand love when all I see is the empty seat at my table and images of them laughing together? How can I expand love when some other woman would be helping her, hugging her, feeding her? Would she even be willing to? What if she wasn't? Oh, loving out loud, choosing love as the answer seemed impossible. A day arrived when my daughter's father couldn't come pick her up, even though he was scheduled to. So he sent his girlfriend to gather my daughter from our house. The doorbell rang. The door. I just remember that it was open, and she was there. And my daughter came from around the corner running, and she ran right into her arms. And her arms were outstretched to receive my daughter. And in that moment, I got it. I was willing to pause the reactivity and just witness my process and continue to trust that even though I can't see it, that love really is the answer. So fast forward 8 years, and Megan is her name, because she deserves a name. She's got a name. She's an amazing woman. She is not only the best stepmom that I could ever imagine for my daughter, she is one of my dear friends and someone I deeply respect and love. In the end, it turns out that love simply, profoundly is. May we courageously choose love, knowing that it is always the answer. And we are going to just take this into some delicious prayer to anchor ourselves right now. So I invite you to gently close your eyes if that feels available to you. And as we take a breath into this now moment, I know that there is one infinite reality, one power, one presence, one infinite knowing that called God, grace, spirit, by any name, it is divine love. It is the heartbeat of life itself. It is breath. It is the sun that shines, and it is the clouds come along the way, giving rain and shade. That no matter how life is experienced, it is an outpicturing of the divine impulse of love to express. And as I know that there is only love, as I know this is the reality of life itself, and as I am here, I know that I must be of it. There is nothing else that I can be. I am intimately one in love. That which is true of God is true right here of me. And as I know this is true for myself, I know this is true for everyone here, online, in the sound of my voice, that everyone is one in divine love, in the one infinite reality, that there is no separation between the truth of love as the core of our being and that which we are in every moment of every day. And so I speak my word on behalf of everyone here, knowing that this is the truth. That no matter what the circumstances appear to be, no matter what kind of bullets seem to be flying towards us, or what kind of clouds might be in the sky, or what kind of emotions might be moving through our human bodies, that the truth underneath it all always is that there is only love. And that this love cannot help but be expressed in and through each one. And so I know that anytime there is a condition that shows up that is a bit confusing, I know that each person here has just a little bit more courage to pause and to say, how does love want to show up? And I know that each one here is just that much more grounded in the truth of love, so that we as a body of the one can demonstrate so profoundly in the world, loving out loud, causing a ripple effect of good, spiraling ourselves and the world around us upwards. I am so grateful to know that this is so, that by speaking this word into the action of the law, it cannot help but become so. I'm grateful that God is the love that each person here is. I'm grateful that love is. And so I release this word into the action of the law, knowing that it is done. And with much gratitude and confidence, we simply let this go. And together we say, and so it is.
So it is.